You're listening to the Payload Podcast, brought to you by the South Carolina Department of Motor Vehicles Motor Carriers Services. Hello, and welcome to the Payload Podcast. I'm your host, Randall Myers, and today we're joined by the Deputy Director of Motor Carrier Services, Miss Bridget Bruce. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here today.
Well, you're starting to be a regular on here, so but that's because you're a fountain of information for us. And today specifically, we're going to talk real quickly about some legislative-driven changes that are coming for the motor carrier industry. And I know there's a couple things out there. One's called Act 37, one's called Act 51. We're going to just touch briefly on those, but I think there's some interesting changes coming. Now, when should we see the majority of these changes coming to the industry?
So legislatively, they have to be done by July 1 of 2024. So around May, you will start to see those changes to our system upgrade. The system that we use is Celtic. So you'll see some changes with Celtic. You'll also see some changes with the plate classes and the weights that are required for those plates.
Okay, so let's talk about that for a second. July 1's kind of the big date out there. I guess to clarify, that's the start of the fiscal year for the state, correct?
That's correct.
So that's why a lot of these changes are starting to go into that, for that time period. So let's talk. You mentioned some things about plate class weight changes, some other things that might be open through the Celtic upgrade. Specifically, one of the things about the Celtic upgrade, let's talk about something called quarterly payments for intra-state carriers out there. Now, as I understand, this is going to offer the same type of quarterly payments for their fees, their registration fees or road use fees such as that the interstate carriers have now. But this will be provided for the intrastates. Can you provide a little more information and insight on how that'll work?
Yeah, that's correct. So currently, for the interstate, they're allowed to cut their quarterly payments for road use fee and their registration fees into 4 payments, which are quarterly. The foreign fees all have to be paid up front. So for the intrastate carriers that stay in state, they'll now have the option to take their registration fee and their road use fees and cut it into 4 quarterly payments throughout the year. They also will have the ability to take all of their vehicles that they want to include into this and put it into one fleet, giving them one renewal date.
Good. So they'll just have one annual renewal date. And so for these carriers who qualify for this, as I understand, it's carriers who are 26,001 and up.
That's correct.
As commercial motor vehicles, or if you're a motor coach, a bus, and the bus has 16 passengers or more. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. And so when they ask to do that, they'll do that and before their renewal comes up.
Yes. So they need to do that 30 days prior to their renewal date, and they will go to our website and be able to set up an account. Our processing team will process that out, and then they'll be set up and have a username and ID to be able to pay these quarterly payments online. They also will have the option to go into the branch offices if they choose.
Okay. And so since that goes in July 1, we're expecting somewhere here late spring, some letters and information to be going out about those quarterly payments to those customers.
That's correct. They may see some as soon as the end of March.
Okay, good. So great opportunity for the intrastate carriers out there to kind of have a little ease in business where they can break some payments up and not such a one big large payment at a time and combine some fleets. If they have multiple vehicles on that and they're paying renewal things all throughout the year, they can combine it into one space. So that's great. Another thing you had mentioned is the difference in some weights for plate classes. So will you elaborate a little bit about what was raised as far as just getting a regular plate and that type of stuff?
So with this change, there will also be a separation in class, if you will. So there'll be commercial and non-commercial vehicles. So to accommodate those vehicles that are higher in weight, that are non-commercial, they have raised the weight for regular plates, but those plates will raise up to 54,000 pounds now for gross value weight or gross vehicle weight.
Okay. So let's just say, for instance, I've got my F-350 truck and I want to pull a boat or a camper behind it. And in the past, that would put me up, say, 29,000 pounds. Now I can just get a regular license plate and go that route with it.
That's correct.
And so that's something that when that customer comes into the DMV or they're applying online, they'll be able to designate if they are a commercial or a non-commercial and we'll assign the correct plate class to them through that means, correct?
That's right. And so the property carrying tags that they're utilizing now are going to be allocated to those that are commercial moving forward and not the non-commercial.
Okay, good changes for people there. Another thing that mentions inside of this Act 37 specifically we're talking about right now are road use fees. Now, I know there's always some people trying to figure out how much they pay or where they pay it at. One of the changes with the road use fee that letter should be coming from the South Carolina Department of Motor Vehicles, and you'll be able to pay that here instead of going to your county if the county does not have that as part of your tax bill. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So maybe a little bit of a change, but more of an awareness thing. And I think some letters are going to be going out as well.
Yes.
To provide that functionality for the taxpayer to be able to come into the DMV. If your county still includes that in your tax bill, you can go to that county and pay. But if it's not there, you have to come to us to pay that.
That is correct. So that's business as usual for those customers that have always paid it at the county. They can continue to do that.
Okay. And so the one more thing here that you touched on with this is an upgraded Celtic product. And so for our IFTA IRP customers that are out there listening, the interface that you've normally been using to do transactions online is going to get a magnificent upgrade. It's going to be easier to use, have a little different look to it. Can you expound a little bit about that process?
Yeah, so the system itself will be a lot easier to use. It's easier to navigate, and there may be even an application that will allow mobile devices to access this information as well. So there's more transactions that'll be available online. And again, just easy access and understand that process for the customer.
That's great. So, and also in accordance with that, from the DMV, we're going to be communicating quite a bit through emails, regular mail, our DMV website, the YouTube channel that we provide that you're watching this on, and also through the DMV Facebook page. We'll be providing lots of updates to keep the customer aware of those changes and what's going on with that. So the other thing that's out there is something called Act 51. And Act 51 deals more with purchasing a vehicle from a dealer. Mm-hmm. And the dealers are going to be required to use what we call an EVR. It's an electronic vehicle registration. Can you explain a little bit about what that customer will be given from that dealer now when they leave the lot, as far as licensing and cab card, things like that for the vehicle?
So for the IRP customers, they will receive a 45-day plate. However, they will come to a IRP and IFTA office to obtain either a tier tag until that tag is issued to them, or they can get one right over the counter if that's something that they want to do immediately. So there's a little bit of a change. The only part that they won't do anymore is the actual titling piece of it. That will be handled at the dealership from this point on.
So what about the intrastate driver and a 45-day temp tag that will go on the front of their vehicle? Does that change anything?
No. So for the interstate carrier, they will receive that 45-day plate, and the dealer will take care of the rest. So from that point on, the titling happens at the dealership, and the plate is then ordered and sent to the customer, and everything will come via mail.
Okay, well, that's perfect. So there's a few legislative updates that we're working on to better enhance the customer experience. These are things that we feel moving forward are only going to make it a better place for them to do their business with us, and easier for them to do their business with us as well. And so once again, if you have any questions about any of these things, please contact us at our email at mcshq@scdmv.net. Or you can also call our customer assistance number at 803-896-3870. And we'll post those at the end of this as well, so you can have that to refer to. And we look forward to talking with our customers, and we look forward to these great changes that are coming only to make us better. So
absolutely.
Well, Bridget, thank you for joining us today again for this podcast. And remember, until next time, we are South Carolina, and you can go anywhere from here.